It's kind of rare that someone on the Inside Line F1 podcast has not got the opportunity to watch a race, but it also presents us a good opportunity to understand what on earth went down. Guys, I've just seen the results. I see Oscar Piastri winning. I see Max Verstappen nowhere in the podium. I see Russell getting one, Lando Norris in fourth, Sergio Perez DNFing, and the same can be said for Carlos Sainz, and another Leclerc pole not being converted to a win. Wait, Kunal Sundaram, who's going to tell me first? What just happened here? What have I missed this weekend?
You actually missed a lot. What you've done is read out the results, which is fine. But there was so much more that happened in Baku. Something always happens in Baku and always does. Whatever that Murray Walker quote is that I try and always bring forward to Baku. But some of the weirdest of stories that you would have never imagined. So, Steak, Kick, Sauber Formula One team got the fastest pit stop of the weekend. Can you believe it? This is that team that had the slowest pit stop ever in the whole season for several races to come. They had the fastest pit stop on Valtteri Bottas's car.
No. Wait, how quick was it?
2.4.
What?
2.4 seconds. And Red Bull, if I'm not wrong, Max Verstappen had a 3.1 second pit stop.
Yeah. I think it's been 4 or 5 races.
Red Bull have been pretty terrible these last couple of races. But yes.
I think Red Bulls had 4 or 5 races where they've had 3-second pit stops. Also, Sauber wasn't 2.4. It was a 2.32 second pit stop. Okay.
What?
So that's one story. Second, of course, we're going to talk about it. Williams, double points finish. They've jumped Alpine in the Constructors' Championship, etc. But in Q3, Alexander Albon left the pits with an airbox fan on his car. Okay, so he had to go park up. Yeah, he had to go park up on the left, and the team was very clear. You can give the fan to the marshal, but do not let him touch the car. The radio instructions were so precise, clear. I love that. Like, you can give him the fan, hand it over to him, but do not let him touch the car, because that would tantamount to him being then given outside assistance. So that was one. Then,
but he did not hand it over. He literally threw it off the car. If I remember correctly.
Yeah, and he's like, if we earn the points this weekend, we'll have some more money to spend, even on the cost cap or whatever it goes. And then Fernando Alonso had a plastic bag stuck on his halo in Friday practice. Yeah, so he was, busy. It was a beautiful video. He's busy doing this, and then the engineer saying, actually, it's a little on the bottom, it's on the left, it's here, it's there, and he finally manages to, get it out. So lots of crazy stories that came up from Baku, not just the race itself. I mean, here's one for F1 Stats Guru. When was the last time 4 drivers were battling for the lead for endless laps together? Okay, almost had no clue who's going to actually claim the win, and they were half a second away from each other. That means 4 drivers within 2 seconds. Literally, when was the last time we had that? Incredible.
I really can't remember. And the interesting thing is, I think the last couple of races that we've seen, we've actually had a pass for the lead in most of them, or in the last 5-6 races, which was such a rarity in the years before, because we would often see the lead changing only when the lead driver would go into the pits, and then in that situation someone else would take the lead. But we very rarely seen someone overtaking the race leader, and we've seen that consistently in the last couple of races, which probably goes on to show that Formula One is in a very healthy state right now. And like Kunal says, 4 different drivers. Sergio Perez was literally in contention for a race win after a very long time. And I was actually rooting for him until that crash happened. But yeah, things look very good for Formula One, and we still have 7 more rounds to go. Super excited.
Yeah. This brings me to my first question. Yes. Go for it. Ask your question.
Exactly. How did Sergio Perez get? One sec. This doesn't make any sense to me. Like, did he outqualify Max? Firstly,
yes, he did.
What?
For the first time, For the first time in
In
33 races, driver number 33 got out qualified. For all your love for numerology, Somal.
Okay, tell me more.
See,
Seriously, how?
this
How?
is the Baku effect because, and I'm a very firm believer of this. If a driver does well at a track for some reason, he just manages to find another gear, another level, and I've seen that trend throughout this season as well. Sergio Perez was pretty good at Spa. He scored points there, and he was good in qualifying at least. He was good in Monza, and he had the longest active streak of any driver in Monza. He scored there for the last 10 races. Similarly, Sergio Perez has a good record around Baku. He had 5 podiums leading into this race, the only driver to win this race more than once, and the only track that he's won at twice in his career. His most successful track. So everyone, I was playing a fantasy game over the weekend, and over 30% of people picked Sergio Perez, and barely 7% picked Max Verstappen. So the numbers really came into effect. He outqualified Max Verstappen and was in the fight for the race when up until the last 3 or 4 laps.
This brings me to my question about Red Bull Racing. Is Red Bull Racing back? Because Checo Perez was actually in the battle for the win in Azerbaijan. He was not in the battle to finish in the points. He was not in the battle for the podium. He was in the battle for the win. Is Red Bull Racing back? Checo Perez finished 20 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen, Simon. Okay. And I just get this feeling that Max is probably running a lot of experiments to find his sweet spot. He knows this title is anyway his. So he's like, do all that you can, experiment all you can, do all the patchwork all you can, and just get me the car the way I like it next year. That's probably where he is.
This is where all the British fans go away. You just said Max knows that the championship is his. And I like that we're actually touching on this topic. I mean, shall we talk more about this right now or later?
Before we do that, we should tell people why Somil couldn't watch the race, because it's not that he was busy doing something else. He was busy doing something else, which was a lot more fun. Actually, when it comes to Formula One now, pretty much every race is so much more fun that I wish you while you were commentating at the Indian Racing League this weekend in Chennai, you also had your monitor on the side, because you would have probably just started commentating on the Formula One race in the Indian Racing League feed itself.
Yeah, I mean, I over there on Sunday, we missed you there, Sundaram. Seriously, we were all just telling everyone who had their phone on with Formula One to shut up and go away, because we didn't want any spoilers whatsoever. I heard one person come in the middle and say, "Hey, dude, Oscar Piastri is leading the race." I was like, "Huh? How does? I mean, and that again? I'm still in that same space as I was on Sunday evening. What just happened, guys? How did Leclerc bottle this? Did he bottle it? Was it one taken away on merit? What's the right way to look at it? I saw the overtake. That was quite good.
That was incredible. That overtake was incredible. To beat Leclerc on the brakes in Baku is one of the toughest things to do. Leclerc is so good in Baku on a single lap because he's so good in the brakes, and you can make up so much more time in the braking zones, especially the heavy braking zones. Oscar Piastri beat Charles Leclerc right there. He actually, claimed after the race it was a 50-50 move, and he made it happen. And Leclerc was like, I should have blocked you. I thought I'll stay in your wake. I'll use the DRS and go for it. And I think it was one of the most epic battles for the race lead, which did not involve Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, or Lando Norris. The three most frequent, most highest raced winners that you can find in recent times, I would say.
And the interesting thing is, the battle that lasted after Piastri overtook Charles Leclerc, it lasted for 28 laps, and for each of those 28 laps, the gap between the both of them was less than a second. 28 consecutive laps of Piastri and Leclerc battling it out. Almost, I mean, there were occasions where Leclerc was very, very close. I think there were 4 or 5 times where he could have jumped on the inside and taken that risk, but he did not. And I think that was typical Charles, knowing that there's so much of risk involved. I'm just going to go straight into the barriers, and there's a constructors championship on the line as well. So I would say that he was quite smart, but you still expected maybe Charles would just try at least once to see if it happens. But he kept it clean, I would say.
Was he annoyed at the end of the race, Kunal? Was he
Not
happy
at all.
with it?
He was
No?
absolutely he knows he lost it on merit. He knows he lost it to a driver who drove fantastic, who overtook him as expected. In a beautiful move. In turn one into Baku is usually always beautiful, and I think if anything, Leclerc would just be like, the cars were almost evenly matched. It was about who had track position, as it is in most cases, right? But it was also down to that one key discussion which is going to come up going into Singapore about McLaren's pace even without DRS, with that wing flexing too much and the gap between the DRS being off and the rear wing. So that's going to be an intense scrutiny in the few days to come from now, because Oscar Piastri's end of DRS zone pace was so high that Charles, without really risking too much, couldn't have just gotten next to his wheel tracks and tried to do something on the brakes with him. So all Charles was trying to do was trying to keep running Oscar into making a mistake, which frankly there was no chance he was going to make one, because Oscar is so really cool with it. But he was hoping that somebody's tires would go off and it wouldn't be his. That's what Leclerc was hoping for.
Is that a new loophole that they're exploiting? Because I particularly remember, I think a year or something ago, McLaren not being the fastest team in the speed traps. They were better in the higher speed corners, but this is new. And I particularly was surprised to see them up in qualifying, because I remember I predicted them to be a bit nowhere and Ferrari to be better and them winning the race, which clearly was not too far off, but again, wrong. How did that happen? Like, what's this whole story about?
Yeah, you're right. It's eventually down to the fact that McLaren's upgrades have gotten them into a more aero efficient configuration, and they are literally matching Red Bull with the might of that DRS itself. So McLaren is literally, the most all-round car there. And after the Friday they had, after the Saturday they had, pretty much no one thought McLaren would win so convincingly. I wouldn't say they won comprehensively. But it's great to see McLaren win. And guess what? On the weekend, they decided that they would use Papaya Rules. They actually used Papaya Rules, but not against Oscar Piastri. They used it in favor of Oscar Piastri. Lando Norris doing his best to hold up Checo Perez, which I think was vital in that victory as well, which means Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris both have 2 wins this season. And Lando Norris has played a big role in both those wins for Oscar Piastri.
One sec, Lando is two? No, is it?
Lando is 2 this
Miami and
season. Yeah.
Zandvoort. And in fact, that's a good point. In the last 9 races, just one race has been won from pole position, and that was Zandvoort with Lando Norris.
That is unbelievable. Well, there's still so much to talk about, though, in this particular episode. And what you're listening to, folks, is the Inside Line F1 podcast. My name is Somal Arora. As Kunal mentioned, I was commentating on the Indian Racing League this time out, which is why I missed. But then at least I get to listen to 2 of my favorite voices on the sport as well. And I can be biased, and surely you can be the same as well, because when you've got someone like Kunal, who's the former marketing head of Force India, and also an F1 expert on Viaplay, who's always on their studio shows as well, and also F1 stats guru Sundaram, who's been one of the most, and what was been the best statistician around in terms of social media content, part of the WTF1 talent roster, also the official statistician for the Indian Racing League, has worked for Autosport, Motorsport, so many other publications as well. It gives me such a good way to get a good idea of what went down in the race weekend. I'm still learning, I'm still catching up. And the next point that I want to catch up is, well, what have I missed again? Okay, we understood how Oscar was good. His attacking and then subsequent defending was incredible. I think then another big incident happened, didn't it? Sainz and Perez. How did that happen at the end? Who's going to take this one, guys?
I want to hear Kunal give his opinion first, because I have a very strong perspective on this, because I've spent a couple of hours going through a lot of footage. But so yeah, I'm actually going to let Kunal go for this first.
In my view, it's a racing incident. Marginal things that both drivers could have done to avoid the crash. I agree with the stewards on this completely. If you have to pin if you have to pin the blame on one person, I would say marginally towards Carlos Sainz, because when you race in Baku, the beauty is you can actually try and emulate this in a go-karting circuit. Doesn't matter if you don't have a Formula One car, but you put a go-kart. And what's happened in this case is Carlos Sainz understeered because he was on the outside line trying to overtake Leclerc. He turned in late. He had a bad exit. He corrected himself. So in that acceleration phase, Sainz was already compromised. Perez, who was waiting patiently, watching to see what's happening with the Ferrari drivers, turned in. He made sure he accelerated fine. So on the run down to the next corner, which was also a left-hander, Checo Perez would have naturally had the inside line. And mind you, it was not his front wing, it was wheel to wheel. So Perez had already made an inroad into Sainz's car. Okay. And usually when something like this happens, what do? The driver who's being attacked, in the case of Sainz, his best form of defense is to go towards the left. So you sort of narrow down the angle for the next corner, which means the driver who's attacking, in this case Perez, has to brake more in the dirty side and risk more. So that's what Carlos Sainz was trying to do. Fair play to him for doing that. In the case of Perez, okay, and I know Jolyon Palmer said he was trying to get the slipstream from Charles Leclerc. Well, that's true. These cars always need a slipstream. But more so in the case of Perez, for him, what he needs to do is he needs to make sure he doesn't give Carlos enough wriggle room. So Carlos has to drive straight and not towards the left. Now, that's typical racing as it would have happened. So, yes, when Carlos tried to come into the left, Perez could have gone to the left to avoid him, but he was like, I have more than just my nose right up next to him. So, in my mind, I think it was Carlos Sainz, and maybe these cars are big, wide, long, all of that. So, Carlos Sainz just went there, and then, the tires were so close that there was nothing that they could have done, and then we saw what happened. So that's where I would put it. They both could have avoided it. Maybe Carlos Sainz a little bit more. And now I literally am putting on my helmet as I visualize this. I would love to be that car on the inside, because you won the previous corner. You won that acceleration phase. You're definitely you don't even have to brake 2 car lengths later. You have to brake half car length later because you're almost alongside up there. So you literally won the previous corner and the corner to come. And that's what Checo Perez did out there.
I have a different perspective, although I think that was very well explained, and a lot of it is actually true, especially from a very tactical point of view. But in my opinion, I think it was a racing incident. There was it wasn't a case of a driver running or driving into the other one. But I felt Sergio Perez could have done a little bit more over here, and the reason I say that is a very similar situation happened on the opening lap as well between Alex Albon and Nico Hülkenberg. Okay, the thing is that section between turn 2 to turn 3 is slightly curved, and I know everyone thinks of Baku as a circuit with right angle corners and straights, if you know what I mean. But that turn 2 to turn 3, if you look at the track limit white line, that's slightly curved. Okay, so you don't take that run down to turn 3 parallel to the walls or parallel to the white lines. So basically you enter that straight a bit closer to the walls, but as you make your way to turn 3, you slightly start drifting towards the left. And this is what every driver did in qualifying in the race. I checked Checo Perez and Carlos Sainz's footage as well, and everyone had that same line. So you go closer to the wall when you enter, and you slowly come inwards. And this is exactly what Carlos Sainz did. And that's what he said even in the post-race media pen, that I did not do anything erratic. He looked into the mirrors. He knew Sergio Perez was there. But in my mind, I think he was expecting Sergio Perez to keep that natural racing line of slightly going left, which Perez did not do, probably because he really wanted Leclerc's slipstream, and it was 2 laps to the end. If you don't take that slipstream, then you probably lose that position. But in my mind, Sergio Perez should have moved a little bit towards the left, which is why I say Alex Albon and Nico Hülkenberg had this very same incident situation on the opening lap, and both of them, they respected the natural racing line and moved a bit towards the left, which is why I feel Carlos Sainz was not wrong in what he did, because otherwise he goes on the dirty side of the track, closer towards the track limit white line, and that kind of compromises him. So that's why I don't feel Sainz is too much to blame in this case.
I'm just glad it was a racing incident, because
Yeah,
had somebody been it's not as black and white as a lot of other incidents. And I like the comparison and the fact that you checked Albon Hulkenberg. Also, first lap early race, you don't want to really take that risk because you've got so much more coming up ahead. But when you're doing it literally on the penultimate lap, especially with cars that are so evenly matched, no longer down to strategy, just down to rhythm, momentum. Maybe that's also one of those differences
No,
that played out in Perez and Sainz's case, I would say.
no, there are two other things. So everyone is often speaking about the steering wheel angle, and both of the steering angles were straight. No one actually moved a bit towards the right or towards the left. So they were going where they intended to go. But Perez, it just seemed for some sake that he wasn't reacting to Sainz coming a bit towards the left. And he took a good 4 seconds to come towards Sergio Perez. And if you see a lot of the battles that happened before that, I think it was Yuki Tsunoda and Lando Norris or anyone else going through those tight sections, you see the car ahead is trying to defend by going a bit left. And the driver behind usually reacts to that movement. In Sergio Perez's case, I think he was just too fixated on seeing where Charles Leclerc was ahead to get his slipstream that he probably did not notice Carlos Sainz coming in at a pretty decent pace.
But were the other drivers as close alongside as Perez was to Sainz? I don't recollect. So I think the others were far behind or just about
In
trying to
one
attack and
situation,
then bailing out.
in one situation, yes. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Well, it was a racing incident. One of those really
Yeah.
rare things that happened as well. But yes, Somal.
I mean, the only thing I can tell from this clearly, it could be defiance from Sergio Perez as well, because we've seen so many racing drivers talk about it, saying that we don't lift or we don't let go of our place when someone's going side by side. And this is not some amateur level drivers we're talking about. Max Verstappen has alluded to something similar. There's recently a video of Kevin Estre, World Endurance Championship driver, who's won everything there is to win with Porsche and sports car racing, saying the same thing. Sebastian Buemi was side by side with me. I just did not lift. I just did not budge. That's the kind of driver I am. That could be what was going through Sergio Perez's mind as well. Last couple of laps, big position on offer. I'm not saying he was thinking about the job or the risks of it, but to be in that position where you can see and touch a podium right in front of you, that you don't lift off or you don't let go of a position like that, do you? It could well be a scenario of that sort as well. Maybe.
That's actually wonderfully put because, yes, on one hand, he needs a great result. Yes, that result is coming at Baku, his favorite circuit. Yes, that result would have meant that, Red Bull actually are not 20 points behind, but fewer points behind than McLaren in the Constructors' Championship. But
2 points.
I also know 2 points. Yeah, exactly. And I also know that when as a driver, you've won a corner and you're going to win the position at the next corner, you pretty much just think about the next corner, I would say, and that natural transition that happens in the circuit, etc. The truth is he hadn't. So let's take Monaco for example, where Perez was in the same position. He had Hulkenberg to the left and Magnussen to the right. He actually inadvertently or advertently ended up squeezing Magnussen, and then there was that 3-car pile-up. Him, Hulkenberg, Magnussen. Here, he wasn't squeezing Sainz to the left at all. So irrespective of the natural line that a driver would take, say in qualifying, when you're the only car on the line out there, okay, what happens in qualifying? Why do they all make space for each other? Because you want to take the natural line, the fastest line possible. But when you are in wheel-to-wheel battle, that natural line goes away. Then the line that actually talks is the line which you're forced upon or you're forcing your rival upon, and the line on which you don't end up crashing, even if it's the slowest line possible, which is why when drivers are engaged in battle, they actually they clock slower lap times.
Yeah. But did we see either of them check their mirrors? Because Sainz did.
So Sainz knew. He even admitted that I knew Perez was there. But then that's what even I feel. Says just 1 second before they crashed, Sainz looked into the mirrors. He saw Perez that close, and he still went for it. I mean, it's not a case that he went for it, but he was just drifting across in that angle. Probably expected Perez to move a bit towards the left as well, and yeah.
Mutual understanding. Hey, back in the day, NASCAR had a feature where you could chat to another driver in the middle of a race with the radio on. Maybe it's time for that.
No, but the thing is, I am actually very gutted for Sergio Perez because, like Kunal said, this is one of those tracks where he does he does exceptionally well, and probably this might be the only track towards the rest of the season where he does so well. And he needed that result more than anything. A P2 more than the 18 points would have been a great confidence booster for Checo leading up to the last 7 rounds. And unfortunately, no points to go home with. So he's going to be hurting with that result, and he'll probably hope that he has a good race in Singapore as well. But yeah, an
He
opportunity
has
lost, I would say.
he has dropped down to eighth, the lowest he can drop down to in the drivers' championship. George Russell, by virtue of that podium that he got gifted and the podium that got taken away from Checo Perez, means that he didn't have a point score this weekend. But I just think Red Bull, for them, they must be like, were we actually quick or not? Was it just the Perez factor that made us quick? Because, now they're turning around and telling the world that, in 2023 Barcelona, we realized we had these problems. And then they got accentuated in 2024 Imola. But Max was just winning. It was the Max factor. Now, is this a Checo Perez factor? Was Red Bull actually quick? Or was it just the Perez factor? They won't know. We won't know till they go to Singapore. And in Singapore, it's the Red Bull factor, which always bothers them. And they were already saying that we're waiting for Austin because there is that gap of 3 weeks before we come to Austin. Red Bull will be able to bring more parts to a real circuit, etc. as well. So just 27 minutes in, and we've hardly covered 10% of all the stories. Maybe we should move on to the Piastri Leclerc battle, because I know we've spoken about it, Somil, and you asked, was it on merit or not? The key thing is Piastri. What I loved about him is he used his own experience. And I remember you keep saying he's learning these tires. In stint 1, he messed up his tire trying to chase Charles Leclerc. In stint 2, his engineer actually told him, let's be smart here. There are 3 tires you need to take care of, the rears and the front right. Okay, his engineer actually told him this. And promptly, the next lap, he pulled off that overtake. Okay. And I think it was that's what made it even more beautiful. He went on his instinct. He, of course, knew that, oh my God, I've actually messed this up before in the previous stint. But he went on instinct. And then there was that classic McLaren feature that also helped him, because before he pitted, Sommel, he had a 6-second gap. Okay, to Charles Leclerc. The minute they came out of the pits, he was just 1 point some seconds away. And that gap is what he made up, because he could fire up his hards faster than Charles Leclerc could. And the difference in their outlap itself was 3 seconds.
Ferrari's in-lap and outlap both were bad.
Yeah.
Like, how bad? Like, what was it? Driver error? Was it just not them firing up the tires?
Just not having enough grip at all. Them not firing up their tires as well as the others. Talking about firing up tires, let's not talk about Lewis Hamilton, because he had a terrible race trying to get his tires into the right operating window.
We'll come to that, because Somil has asked an interesting question, which Nityanand has actually pulled up a graph. It's going to go up on our socials tomorrow. Leclerc's in lap 153.844. Piastri's in lap 153.511. So that's a 3.5 tenths out there. Point number 1. But the crucial one is the outlap. Leclerc's outlap 2:06.071. That's 2 minutes 6 seconds, and Piastri was 2 minutes 3 seconds 253. Okay,
that much?
Yeah. So that's 3.5 tenths in the in-lap and 2.8 seconds in the outlap.
It's crazy how many contributing factors exist to making a race car good, right? It's not just high speed or top speed. It's not just best cornering speeds or best turning abilities. It's also how quickly you fire up your tires. It's also how well you manage them over the course of a long race. Because I suppose this same thing was what helped Ferrari be better in Monza, because they were kinder to their tires. They didn't fire them up as much. So over the course of a longer stint, they were more sustainable. It's nice.
And And this is something that goes unnoticed. Usually, you see the pit stop times, if it's 2 seconds, 3 seconds, and you can quite clearly make a difference there. But then, what people usually don't notice is the in lap time or the out lap time, more crucially, if they have the right grip, if the tires are up to the right temperature, and if they're setting a fast enough lap compared to the competitors behind. So, that's a very good insight, especially if you look at the in laps and out laps.
Samuel, there's something else that was strange that happened. Lando Norris was knocked out in Q1
That
of
I saw.
qualifying.
That I saw.
Yeah.
And in this case, I'm hearing it's actually Ocon's fault. Like, for once, the Ocon's fault memes are real.
No, well, I wouldn't say it's his fault.
I mean,
Maybe the
sort
FIA's
of.
fault, because
Sort of.
it was literally in, like, for a 150-meter part of the circuit where they flashed the yellow flag, and it flashed for him and he had to lift off. Of course, he made a mistake at turn 16 exit before that, but it would have costed him like a couple of tenths, not more than that. Max had a similar mistake in Q3 and it cost him half a second. So I don't think it was that turn 16 mistake that contributed to Q1 loss for Lando Norris, but it was definitely that yellow flag. And I know Andrea Stella said the FI need to, reconsider what they did. But I get this feeling, and I said this on the Viaplay broadcast, is after turn 16, even though it's a flat out 2.2 kilometers straight, it's not really a straight. You're still having high speed directional changes. Esteban Ocon was driving way offline, way slow through that high speed directional changes. So, of course, you know that drivers don't usually lose it in that section, but you have to warn them. So I get a feeling that that yellow flag was also fairly apt, even though it was for a very, very short time. And that just cost Lando Norris. And that's just how it all unfolded. So that was yet another weird story. And then my favorite story from the weekend, apart from the favorite moment where we had both, Samuel, this you definitely need to look this up on F1 social media. There was at one lap, Oscar Piastri, four-wheel slide, turn 16 curb.
Oh, I've seen
And
that one.
the minute I saw it, I'm like, that's it. He's a sitting duck. But the next half a second later, because that was a gap, Leclerc, similar four-wheel drift. It was beautiful. It reminded me of like the 70s and the 80s, where typically if this would have happened, the team would have said, okay, box this lap or box next lap, because your tires would just not be able to handle it. But both of them had the drift, which meant also that Leclerc couldn't really make the overtake. But this is what something I tweeted. F1 drivers or racing car drivers are like monkeys. They just follow the driver ahead's wheel tracks and motion and momentum so closely. You guys remember George Russell in Singapore last year?
Oh,
He went
yes.
straight into the barrier. He was chasing, was it Piastri or Norris? Because somebody nudged the barrier, and then Russell also went and hit the barrier and went straight because his steering wheel broke. So when the field bunches up the way it does, these beautiful motorsport moments come out where doesn't matter if you're a driver from the 60s, 80s, or the 2000s or the 2024, you are still doing what drivers have done for ever since there's been motor racing.
I just want to see a visor cam of that battle in full. Like, how cool will that be? Like, for an hour and a half, both of them fighting. This is, I mean, we say that we miss F1 in the 70s and the 80s, right? We say that, we miss these awesome hardcore battles where there are just two drivers fighting on strategy, fighting on driving merit, fighting on driving ability. We have it now. And these are two drivers in two different teams, and the same drivers had a different fight in a different circuit as well. It's, what more could we ask for? I think all the days of crying and days of mourning are well and truly gone. If we just get that one onboard footage of them, of both of them, Leclerc and Piastri, and their entire race, with the visor cam especially, man, that will be, I'd be paying for that stuff, honestly. I'll just put it down for an hour and a half and just watch.
No, this would be a great race to actually have Piastri and Leclerc speaking on a podcast and actually running us through what they were
Exactly.
thinking about on each lap. Okay, I'm 5 tenths behind him. What was I thinking over here? Okay, not this lap. Let's try to do it next lap. But see, the beauty of this race is, I think, is even if you look at the classification sheet, or even if you see the qualifying highlights, or sorry, if you see the highlights, you really want to get a sense of what happened. This is a race where I would recommend anyone to actually sit and watch through each of those minutes in 1.5 hours This is one of those races where you actually have to watch it and watch it in one full sitting. Not the not the highlights, not just the overall results. You have to watch this whole race, and it's a great race to recommend to anyone who's not a fan of the sport.
And the one weekend I miss it, dude. The one weekend I miss it. I swear.
Yeah. Well,
I
that's
missed
also
more,
been the
I
weekend
heard.
where Max Verstappen. Yeah, you missed a lot more. Max Verstappen. Christian Horner gave it away after the race in the broadcast when he was asked, and he said we'll have to see what different setups the two are running. But when he was asked why Max Verstappen was so off Perez, and I could just get a feeling Max is, of course, struggling in the Red Bull. And Perez actually said before the race weekend that with the changes we are actually putting in place, it'll help me with my driving style. And when I read that quote, I said, okay, wait a minute. Is this for real? But it actually turned out for real. So we'll have to go to Singapore or, like I said, Austin before we even know what happened. But we finally know what happened. Sommel, this is very interesting. So when the crash happened with not Piastri, sorry, Sainz and Perez, Nico Hulkenberg got a big hit on his front wing. If you see his onboard, which somebody has tweeted to me on Twitter, and I've sort of shared it with everyone else, you can actually see the camera, like the cars picked up some big debris, and it was from the crash. And he was running at that time, he was running in the points. Okay, so he was running 8th. Lewis would have been 9th. And then
that low.
no, there was Lewis would have been 9th and Behrman would have been 10th. Okay, but he hit. This was on the penultimate lap. He hit the wall before that, and Colapinto overtook him. And then he hit this debris, and then suddenly Oliver Behrman was also overtaking him. So Nico Hulkenberg finished 11th for the 7th time in 17 races,
Yikes.
and he could have scored points. But that gave Franco Colapinto and Oliver Behrman points, which is, I think, an incredible story. Of course, two drivers, top drivers in the podium positions were taken out or whatever, took each other out. But Franco Colapinto actually had the guts to start on that medium tire, run the regular strategy, while they ran Alexander Albon on the Williams strategy. What's the Williams strategy? You just run the reverse of everyone, because that's what they need to do, right? Albon was holding his ground even against Lando Norris in that McLaren, who was also on that reverse strategy. So Franco Colapinto making it work on the same strategy as the 6 drivers ahead of him, or whatever, 8 drivers ahead of him, was incredible. What a brilliant debut for him at Baku, because he's never driven on this circuit before. And then, of course, Oliver Behrman has become the first driver ever to score points with 2 different teams in his very first race with those 2 different teams in the same season. Lots of filters here, but yeah, there we go. What a beautiful race weekend. You need to watch every lap of it, not the highlights.
And I think it's immediately made the dropping of Logan Sargent worth it. And we know that Colapinto comes in with sponsors. We know he comes in with money. But executing this sort of a strategy, Sundaram, is... I mean, that's what you can expect. If you're getting that from a pay driver, I say keep him. Honestly. Seriously.
No, exactly. And this is why I feel this is the sort of audition that he wanted. It's very, very difficult to find an F1 seat these days, especially if you're... Even if you are a successful F2 driver, there's no guarantee that you will get that promotion into Formula One. He was at the right place at the right time, and probably with the right sponsors. He said, okay, fine, even if it's 9 races and I don't have a seat for 2025, I'm going to give it my best shot. And even if I can impress people on one race, I'm sure there might be a helmet Marco wanting to put me into an Alpha Tauri. Case in point with what happened in Nick De Vries at Monza. So I think he's made a statement. He outqualified Alex Albon, which has been a very difficult thing to do over the past couple of years.
did he-
None of his teammates have been able to do it,
He-
but he did that.
He
in Grand Prix qualifying.
qualified him.
He outqualified him, I think, by just one position, if I'm not wrong. I think he was P8, Albon was P9 or P9, P10. He outqualified him, the more
hell?
experienced teammate. Around
But that's
Baku,
also
like
because,
Kunal said,
because Albon had that airbox, and then his lap, his
okay.
final lap
Yeah.
was compromised.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
No, but
yes,
still,
it'll still go down as
executing.
Absolutely. He still managed to deliver
It's
that lap.
because Baku is a very difficult track, especially if you look at, the first and the third sectors are fine. That middle sector is extremely technical, and you can either be cautious over there because this is the first time you're driving there, but otherwise just go straight for it. And I think that's what he's done. So impressive 51 laps throughout, impressive time management, and impressive overtakes. I think what who was it? Nico Hulkenberg. Yeah, I think a very impressive statement for from him this
A
weekend.
word on this, Kunal, before we go to helmet, because I saw your eyes light up when we said that. Isn't it funny how Formula 2 drivers are coming in so much more prepared now, even though they get such little testing? I see Oliver Behrman in his first couple of races already feeling like he's driven 10, 15 races. Colin Pinto in his second race is doing so well and is feeling so confident with the car. It's like we have such a good crop of drivers nowadays. And even though they haven't driven F1 per se, it's amazing how ready they are. Even Kimi Antonelli, I mean, the lines that he was taking at Monza and the way he was chucking that Mercedes car around before the crash, I'm gobsmacked about how ready these drivers are and how many Formula One ready people we have nowadays.
Yeah, the
Isn't that
truth,
very
truth be
difficult to assess? Because none of these drivers have driven an F1 car, and you have an Ollie Behrman who's not having a great F2 season. You
Yeah.
have where is Kimi Antonelli on the standings? Maybe P6 or P7. Not great in terms of the hype that's been created around them, but they're still doing exceptionally well whenever they've been given a chance in an F1 car. Kimi, Ollie, and even now Franco. It's great to see. It's difficult to judge who is actually ready for Formula
Kush
One.
is
But
ready,
yeah,
right?
Kunal, you were
Kush is
saying.
ready.
Yeah, I'll
Surely.
tell you what I think. I'll tell you what I think. The Formula Two, Formula Three ladder is broken. It exists purely for Formula One to make money, right? Because look at it this way: 2 years ago, Logan Sargent, top five. Let's put him in. Wow, American driver, whatever. Well, guess what happened to him? Then at that time, Joe Guan Yu was top three, or just
Yeah.
before that was top three. What happened to him? So I think what's happening is drivers who got certain backing, not just terms of sponsors, but a godfather figure like Toto Wolff is for Kimi Antonelli. Uh, they're sort of coming through. Bortoleto and Colapinto are backed by Fernando Alonso himself. And what Colapinto has done is he's suddenly used these performances to bring himself on the radar of the likes of Sauber, right?
Hmm.
Yes, he's done private testing the way Jack Doohan has done, Antonelli has done. The drivers are coming a lot more prepared into Formula One these days, even though actual Formula One testing is very limited. But I get this feeling that F3 and F2 need to have a serious look at themselves because the series, even though it's a spec series, there is just so much variation between teams and cars that one suddenly ends up believing that a particular driver is better or not. And then you look all over Behrman and you look at Antonelli and now, Colapinto, who of course was also top five in Formula 2 when they get their breaks. You're always wondering, are these the most talented drivers who should get there to Formula One?
I know we're getting late, and I know there's lots of other F1 stuff to talk about as well. But now that we've put out this topic, I just have to ask this question to you, Kunal, because you cover Formula 2 with such depth as well. So are Theo Pourchaire and Christian Lundgaard and the likes, or even Drugovic, not that good as Formula 2 champion? What's not working? Why is the system the way it is right now?
I would say what happens is the minute you are entering your third season, your chances of getting a break are so little. Because that's just how the series is designed. I mean, look at Mick Schumacher. F3 2 seasons, he won championship in the second. F2 2 seasons, won championship in the second. Now he's celebrating a podium with Alpine and WEC, which is, of course, not bad, but
Yeah.
that's not where he wants to race. So in the case of Drogovic, and look at Porsche. He's a Sauber driver. He's testing with Sauber this season. Sauber has a vacancy, but they could be looking at Bortoleto, who's just in December last year announced as a McLaren junior, right?
It's
So
rubbish,
lots of things
honestly.
at play, and I believe uh, it's about having that father figure, godfather, whatever you call it, where they want to see you in Formula One along with a lot of money. And God forbid, if you're in your third or fourth year, you're pretty much never going to get to sit in a Formula One car.
I think it's the hardest it's ever been to get into Formula One because previously you could buy your way in because there would be financially, uh, let's say, dependent teams that didn't really have lots of security. Now teams are secure thanks to the budget cap and the incredible popularity of F1. So you need money, talent, Godfather, and luck in Formula 2. Man, Start dreaming about GT
A
racing, all
lot,
of you young kids.
a
Formula One's too
lot of
far
luck.
off. Wow.
A
Okay.
lot of luck in Formula 2.
Wow.
For that money you pay, you're literally betting, you're gambling, but I shouldn't say more.
Yeah. Not here. Not here. When's the maybe afterwards? But okay. Anything else that we've missed out this weekend, guys?
Let's give it a thought. And I can
give it
even
a thought.
scroll through my Twitter because my goodness, my Twitter's exploding each time.
Oh, by
But
the way,
yeah.
I just realized that, I mean, when Perez and Sainz crashed, I felt, okay, this has got to be the chance for Bernd Mailander to come out on track for the first time in 8 races. He did not. It was a virtual safety car for, what was it, 1 lap, 2 laps? So he's not been on track for 8 races, and that's the longest that we've not seen him on track for the last 20 years. He actually had a longer streak back in 2003, 9 races. Let's see if we can equal that at Singapore, which is going to be very tricky because that also is a very tight, narrow street circuit. But yeah, we've not seen Bernd Mailander for a long time. McLaren are leading the championship right now by 20 points. And I think after Miami, they had a points deficit of 115 points to Red Bull. And if McLaren goes to win this championship, the Constructors' Championship, that will be the biggest margin overturned by any team in the current point system.
That's insane.
And probably just one last number-based opinion. I think there is no Drivers' Championship to talk about. I think there is no point in putting Papaya Rules because Lando Norris is 59 points behind Max Verstappen. We have 7 rounds, which mathematically means he needs to outscore Max Verstappen by 9 points at each round, and he's done that only once this whole season, and that was when Max Verstappen retired in Australia. So it's a lot that's being asked of Lando Norris to do consistently over the next 7 rounds, and I feel McLaren have the more important championship already in their reach, the Constructors' Championship.
And given the overalls that have happened in the Constructors' Championship, guys, we don't need Drive to Survive if this is how an F1 season is going to be.
I agree.
These kind of races are the best advertisements for Formula One. Yes, Drive to Survive brings in lots of new ways of telling different stories from the season itself. But when the racing is this good, okay, you don't need more stories because there's just so much that happened on track. But there was one thing which we shouldn't forget. And I'm going to ask you guys a question.
Go for it.
Somebody made a comeback to Formula One, an old man who says he's a genius in Formula One. You know who I'm talking about?
Of course. He's known to
Flavio
orchestrate a
Briatore.
few things.
Yes, wait a minute. No, don't add to it. So Flavio Briatore is back in Formula One. Guess who else is back in Formula One? Naomi Campbell. No. Naomi Campbell is also back. She waved or was supposed to wave the checkered flag. I don't know, something. But yeah, anyway, she was in
How
that
was she
gantry.
involved initially? Wasn't she with McLaren briefly? I saw a picture of her and Lewis back in 2007.
She
This
was-
one.
She was always with Flavio Briatore. Now, thank me for it later. Go Google it.
Okay. That I shall,
This is
after this
interesting.
episode
This is interesting.
ends, which now would be a good time to, because we're going to end on
Wait
a
a
good
minute.
bombshell. Wait. Are we
yeah,
not?
we've ended.
Ooh,
Actually,
Oh, what?
what's the bombshell?
this is interesting. I did not know this.
Former
Okay.
fiance.
Okay.
Dude, Flavio's playing the game, man. He's... Blood.
I did
Anyway,
not know this. Okay.
I
on
would
a
like a
more serious
documentary of
note,
Flavio Briatore's life. How did Flavio become who he is? Because this guy's a fascinating character, dude.
You do know who was his wife, right? Or who did he date after that?
No.
Heidi Klum? Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yes.
Holy Flavio. My friend, how much for a masterclass? It's unbelievable.
Only for Somil, not for Kunal and me. But okay.
which means that my next point is an anticlimax. So when the race ended, Sommel, it ended under a virtual safety car.
Correct.
But Max Verstappen, Pierre Gasly, Nico Hulkenberg, and Esteban Ocon actually overtook their rivals as they normally would after a race ends. So Lando Norris was promptly on the radio saying, "Hey, Max is overtaking everyone. What's he doing there?" And George Russell is like, "I'm not sure what he's doing there." So they were, of course, given a reprimand and a warning because this was unprecedented. But anyway, now it's time to drop our checkered flag and then catch people in a few days for the Singapore preview, I guess.
Yeah. We should do that. Wait, sorry, I'm too busy
Samuel,
reading up on the life
enough
of Flavio.
Wikipedia.
I find it amazing. He started out as the commercial director of Benetton without even being interested in the sport. And so he fired the entire staff of that team. This is what I'm reading on Wikipedia now. Huh? I want a documentary on this guy's life. It's too good, too good. But that's the last thing I thought I'd be saying at the end of a Azerbaijan GP review. But that's I suppose the kind of weekend and the kind of race it's been. If you made the same mistake as I did, I hope we've been able to bring out the entire story of the weekend to you on this review. And if you enjoyed it, you know what to do, guys. Subscribe to the podcast, share it with all your friends and other people who love to watch more about Formula One. And yeah, as Kunal mentioned, we will see you for the Singapore preview. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.